episode of Creative Writing Advice with me, JJ Barnes. If you don't know me, I'm the author of How to Write Your Story, which is out now. All the links are below to everything, so you can find it there. I am over here on YouTube bringing you writing advice that I hope will inspire you and encourage you, give you the confidence to get your story out into the world. Today's video is my top tips for creating your protagonist. So, tip number 1, dunk. Why them? Isolate in your mind why that person and why now. Because you need to be having somebody interesting to tell a story about. Because if that is a person who is not interesting and the people around them are more interesting, you're going to find that your audience is kind of drawn to your side characters, and that's a real shame because your protagonist, that's who you're focusing on. They're the protagonist, they're who your audience needs to root for, they're who they need to connect with emotionally. So why them? Think about it. What about them is special? What about them is interesting? Have they had a really difficult life that they are trying to overcome or motivates them to accomplish something? Have they got a really interesting goal? Have they got a really striking personality? Are they physically striking in some way, either a really unusual monster or a person who looks particularly unusual? Something about that person needs to be interesting enough that your audience is going to want to follow them through their whole story. Now, they might not start off clearly fascinating. So, for instance, my protagonist, Lily Prospero, in the Lily Prospero and the Magic Rabbit book and series, at the start of the book of Magic Rabbit, she seems like a really ordinary kid. You wouldn't say, oh, she is having this story because she's not particularly unusual looking, she's not particularly got anything about her that stands out, she's just a regular kid. She's new at school, which would give you a reason to be following her on that journey because she's going to a new school. But personality-wise, it's not clear why. But that doesn't last for very long because you very quickly get introduced to what is special about her. So when you introduce your character, your protagonist, it might not be an immediate click. This person is special because, boom. Doesn't have to be, but you do have to get there quickly. You can't leave it unclear for very long. You can't be like, why this person halfway through the book? That's not good because then people aren't going to get there. There has to be something about that person that stands out. So, point number 2, what do they want? So you are jumping into this character's life for a reason. You're not joining them when nothing is going on. You're not joining them like a couple of years before something interesting happens. You are joining them now because a story is going to happen. They've lived before your story starts. They'll live on afterwards unless you kill them. You are looking at this section of their life for a reason. So what's happening? What is their story? And their story is what they want. So the inciting incident, which again needs to come quite quickly in your story, they go after a story goal. So for instance, I'm reading a book called Invisible by James Patterson. Very quickly, you are told what that character wants. Emmy, her sister was killed in a fire. She believes there is a serial killer burning people in their homes and disguising it as an accident. You are taught very quickly by this story, that is what is motivating her. She is looking for a serial killer and that is going to be her journey. There's no confusion. I'm not reading this book like, why am I here? What does Emmy want? What's she doing? No, it's straight away clear. That's why I'm joining her. This is the story. This is the point of showing up. She wants to find this serial killer. I'm in. I want to know. It makes a massive difference if your audience understands what story you're going to be telling. Point number 3, okay? Make them clear. Make them a distinct personality. They cannot blend in. If you've got characters all around them, side characters, and they're all talking and they're all doing things, but you're like, oh, which one am I supposed to, which is the whose story, they're all the same person, I'm kind of lost. You're gonna have a problem because your protagonist needs to be somebody that they can see. They have got them in their mind. And this particularly, if you are writing like either an ensemble cast or just a story with a lot of characters in it, it's very important. So for instance, in Emerald Ren and the Coven of Seven, Emerald, the protagonist, is in a coven with 6 other witches. And they are all talking all the time, they're all motivated, they're all doing things, and they all have very, active storylines. Emerald has to stand out as the person who you are rooted to, who you are riding with. Otherwise, you're going to get a bit lost and it'll be a bit overwhelming because it's too many people. So my advice would be, you make them clear they are your POV character, so you stick with them. You only leave their POV if they're not in the scene, or if for some reason somebody is watching them in the scene and it's exploring what they're doing from an outsider perspective. But for the most part, you make them distinct and clear by rooting in their POV, sticking to them, developing their internal thoughts, developing that so that your audience has that connection to them, and make them stand out. So when people are talking, try and give them the main focus of that scene. Even if everyone else is doing things and everyone else is talking around them, try and have them driving it. It's their story, they should be driving the action forwards anyway. And number 4, last but not least by any stretch, you need to make your protagonist somebody your audience will root for. That means they want to stick with your story because they want your protagonist to get what they want, or to realise that they want something else, which is the case in a lot of love stories. They think they're in love with one person, the audience quickly catches on to the fact that they shouldn't be with that person, they should be with that person. But either way, what you're rooting for is for that character, that protagonist, to find love, to find happiness. So really make it clear what they want and why they want it. And so much of rooting for a protagonist is showing your audience why their goal matters. What happens if they don't get it? So if you are writing a love story, if they say you've got a woman who thinks she's in love with one person, is really in love with another person, and that's your story. It's a great story, tailors all this time, always plays out brilliantly, a really good little trope to use. What happens if she doesn't find love? It can be anything. Maybe she wants a date to a wedding. Maybe she wants to have children. Maybe, I don't know, anything. It's your story, whatever. But the point is, you have to make your audience care about what happens if she doesn't get it. What are the stakes? What happens? Why is it mattering? Why do your audience want your character to get what they want? So make them root for them by showing what happens if they don't get it. Make their goal something that's clear. And then make them likable. Because your audience, they're not going to root for somebody who's horrible. Why would they? You're not going to be watching some horrible woman trying to find a boyfriend. You're going to be like, no, don't go out with her. She's vile. She's mean to waitresses and she's rude to people who are on the street. You're not going to want that for her. You want to write somebody who your audience is like, yeah, she's good. She's a good person. She should find love. So make her likable. Make her flawed. So she can't be perfect because nobody is, so she needs to be human. But when she makes mistakes or wrongs somebody, is mean to somebody because she's in a bad mood or just by accident, she has to learn from that mistake and try and be better. The way to make somebody who does things wrong likable is have them address those mistakes. If somebody is being horrible by accident or because they're in a bad mood and then later regrets it and does nothing about it, doesn't regret it and does nothing to change their behaviour, doesn't learn, doesn't improve, doesn't change with your story, they are not going to be likeable. The likeable people are the ones who try and be better, try and be good, aspire to be the best versions of themselves, and are nice to wait staff and respectful of other human beings. If you write them being horrible to wait staff, you're going to have to send them on an arc where they learn to be respectful, because nobody likes those people. So yeah, try and show their improvement, show their goal is to be a good person, show them learning, changing, improving, and show why what they want matters, and your audience will root for your protagonist. So I hope this has been helpful. Your protagonist, it's their story, you're joining them now for a reason. They are somebody who is interesting enough to tell a story about. They want something clear, and they're a good enough person that your audience is going to hope that they get what they want. Thank you very much for watching another one of my videos. It has been great to have you here. I put out a video every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so join me for those. And if you subscribe and put on the little dingy bell thing, it helps my YouTube algorithms. And also you'll get an alert when I put a video out and you can join me, and hopefully we can all grow and learn together as writers, and we'll get more stories out into the world. If you go to my website, which is jjbarnes.co.uk, over there you'll find all my work, all my books and my art and my stuff that I'm doing. There's also all the links to my social media, so you can come and chat to me. Tell me about your protagonist. Why them? Why now in their lives? What do they want? Talk about either the book you've already written or the work in progress that you're on right now. I'd love to hear from you, or drop a comment down below and tell me all about who you are writing about and why. I'd love to hear it. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.